everybody. Welcome to Brothers of the Half Circle. My name is Sean. I'm with Christian, his debut episode. What's going on, Christian? We got Andy over here.
What's up?
We are excited to be with you. This is our second episode ever, guys, which is really cool. That's pretty exciting. If you want to listen to this podcast, you can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, also Google Podcasts. Wherever you stream your podcast, you can find us there. Just search Brothers of the Half Circle. As well as we do want to give a special shout out to Sharpened Iron Studios for letting us, making this space available that we're in to record this podcast. If you are a content creator or you're a business and you're looking for a space to record your videos, maybe make a couple of ads, you can do that here at Sharpened Iron Studios. You can book those online, right, Christian?
Yep, sharpenedironstudios.com.
Awesome. Well, there's the website, and you can go find all that information there. Let's jump right into our episode today, guys. How's it going? You guys doing good?
Yeah, so far so good.
Doing pretty good.
Good. Glad you're here.
Excited.
So if you were with us on our first episode, we talked about DC Comics and everything like that, and we kind of just went over just the overall, the ups and downs of DC on the big screen. We talked about the Snyderverse. We talked about Christian Bale and the Christopher Nolan universe. We talked about the Arrowverse, all of that good things. Well, we are now going to transition over into the other side of that comic book coin, which is the MCU, and we're going to be talking about Marvel Studios. But more specifically, we're actually going to talk about the relationship between Disney Plus and the MCU. We're going to be doing a fuller Marvel episode with our other friends here in the next couple of weeks to just kind of dive into the phases of Marvel, how they connect, how they sometimes don't connect. Stuff like that.
Definitely don't connect.
But today we're actually going to be looking at the relationship between Disney Plus and the MCU and what that actually looks like. And so I just want to go, just down the road here and just kind of see like what you guys think about, some of the Disney Plus shows. What have been your favorites? What have been some of the stuff that you felt like maybe was a little lacking? I'll start with you, Christian, since you weren't on our first episode. So what have you liked? What have you disliked about Disney Plus and its relationship with the MCU?
Well, I was really excited when the Disney Plus shows started because, originally we had shows like, the CW had their shows that didn't really connect to the DC, TV, but
for sure
they were always great representations of superheroes.
Yeah.
And I always wished they would be on the big screen. And then you had like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that, for a while connected, but then all of a sudden stopped.
Yeah.
And it didn't really it was good for a while, then it just wasn't. Yeah. So when we first got WandaVision and it was like, oh hey, we're getting the actors from the movies in a 10-episode show. It was like, oh hey, this is great. Like now we got something that is a show that's going to connect. I know it's not on, network TV, but a lot of people are cutting the cord now. So I was really excited about that. But then, and WandaVision is one of my favorites. Like I loved the fact that they did the whole sitcom type style where they went through the different versions of it, the different, 50s, 60s, 70s, 90s. And then...
Yeah, that was really cool.
That was awesome.
I really liked Falcon and Winter Soldier. Just, it was a completely different style of it. But again, you had people from multiple franchises show up in that one as well. Sure. So what I really liked that they've been able to bring some bigger actors into the smaller screen. Even What If was a really awesome one where you got to see, well, again, what if this happened? Yeah. My only downside of this, though, is the movies have taken a hit. I was really hoping that when this started, we'd see more interconnectivity and we'd see more similar to how we wished Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. would have connected more when the movies were really connecting. I was like, man, this is going to be a perfect opportunity for that to happen. But now, if you don't watch a Marvel show, if you don't watch, say, Loki, or if you missed WandaVision, then certain movies you're missing out on information. Sure. And in the past, even if you missed something on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you still were able to watch the movies and understand what was going on. Yeah. It's just that filled in some extra information that would feel like, oh, hey, I'm more in the know on this. This is what was going on around this time versus I'm watching Multiverse of Madness and I have no idea why Wanda's angry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Andy? What have you liked and sort of disliked?
Well, I mean, I will say the first one of the shows that I really enjoyed just as a show, the most was probably Moon Knight, because it was very different, and it had to do with like, you know, Egyptian type stuff, which the whole character of Moon Knight is basically Marvel's Batman. So I was very interested to see how Marvel was going to play out this character who is basically Marvel's Batman. And I even told you, Sean, like, I kind of liked that it was its separate thing for a while. The first couple episodes I thought were great just as a standalone show. Near the end of it, I was kind of wondering, like, where is it going to connect? If it's going to connect, where is it going to go to the bigger universe that is the MCU? So I will say, like, yeah, Moon Knight as a standalone show was great. Now talking about WandaVision and Loki connecting somewhat, slightly connecting to the movies. I remember watching Multiverse of Madness, and the hype for that wasn't there. And going off of that, like, if you were just watch the movies, the first time you're hearing about Wanda talking about something about Westview and talking about her enslaving a whole town, that's the gist of it. You don't get any more than that unless you watch the show.
Yeah.
I will say I did like what WandaVision did do with, you know, going through the different eras, you know, like Christian said, you know, the 50s, 60s, 70s, and the 90s. I thought that was great. It was just a fun show. But again, if Marvel's going to be known for connecting everything into one universe, if you're not watching these shows, you're going to fall behind pretty quick. And I've had to tell people, like, hey, if you're not watching the shows, this is the summary of what you need to know going into the movie.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. Like, I think for me, you know, I'm a big Captain America fan, so I enjoyed, you know, Falcon Winter Soldier. I do wish that it had been just a little bit more on the same level as the previous, like, Captain America movies and stuff like that. But I did appreciate it for what it was. I thought WandaVision was great. You know, I enjoyed Loki season 2. I'm glad you mentioned What If, Christian. Like, I honestly forgot about that show, but like What If was really good.
Well, we saw some What If characters in Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah. Which, you know, that was really cool with you know, Captain Carter and you know, and so I you know, I feel like, you know, Andy was right. You know, if you're watching Multiverse of Madness for the first time and you hear Wanda mention, you know, Westview and you know, all that she did, but it's just like a passing little bit of you know, dialogue you know, from the script.
Yeah.
If you're seeing that for the first time, you didn't watch WandaVision, you're really confused because the last time you saw Wanda, she was grieving, you know, the loss of Vision at Tony's funeral. You know, at the end of Endgame.
Yeah.
Which is also going to be another point when he shows back up at some point.
Yeah.
Spoiler for
the future. But just to lay out some, like, numbers for Disney Plus, and in case you guys didn't know this, and if you're listening, if you didn't know this comes from techjury.net. But Disney Plus has over 164.2 million subscribers worldwide in 2023. So in this year, and that's up from 118.1 million in 21, which is crazy, and which is really interesting to think about, considering that, you know, Disney Plus only started in November of 2019. Like,
Yeah,
when
that's
it was
right.
launched.
Wow.
The service expects to reach 260 million Disney Plus subscribers by next year. That's a huge number. The app has over 22 million downloads. The revenue reached 7.4 billion in 2022. That's up from 5.2 billion in 21. Direct to consumer global revenue reached 4.7 billion in the first quarter of 22. Disney Plus had 15% of the market share in streaming services in 2022. 58% of Disney Plus subscribers come from India and the United States. 45% of all the Disney Plus users are under the age of 18. So obviously, Disney being a family company, there are a lot of families who subscribe to Disney Plus.
Yeah.
And so that's just some crazy numbers to think about. But we have mentioned, and we've mentioned it on our last podcast, we mentioned this little thing called comic book movie fatigue. It's not something that we'll go into full detail on this episode. We'll probably explore it a little bit more on the next episode, but it is something that is there. Now, I do want to go ahead and preface this by saying I want to give grace to anything that came out from 2019 to 2020. There was a pandemic that came. Honestly, Disney Plus launching in 2019 was the perfect time. Was a great time for launching.
The perfect time.
Yeah. And we live in a world now where streaming is something that every household does. Cable is on its way out, but sometimes if you add up all of your streaming, subscriptions, you're pretty much paying the same.
You're basically paying. It's just without commercials.
It's just without commercials and
with
stuff
2-second ads.
What's kind of interesting is I think some of the best Disney Plus shows came out during that time.
That's true.
Again, WandaVision, Mandalorian. If we're gonna go in that route,
That was the biggest thing I remember hearing about. After Mandalorian season 1 came out, I remember a lot of people saying like they were getting off Disney Plus. I'm like, there's gonna be another season.
Yeah.
And now, people complain about the quality of the newer shows, She-Hulk, Miss Marvel, and, things like that. And, I enjoyed She-Hulk. It's not, like I said, the worst show that Marvel's ever put out. But there's a lot of, mixed reviews on it where when WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki, all the What If, all those came out, it was pretty well, they were loved by most of the fan base. And then, so I think it's one of those of, we give grace to that time because I don't think they couldn't do everything they wanted to do with those.
Definitely.
But they did really well with what they had.
Sure.
Compared to some of the shows now, which have the room to do it, and I don't think they're doing as much as they could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned something about, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which was on ABC. I think it started after... Was it after the first Avengers movie, I think?
Yeah, because if you remember, Coulson got shot.
That's right. Coulson, that's right. So Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. premiered in, I think, 2012, 2013 maybe. It was on ABC, and it was going to be an extension of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And it started out that way. It really did. Like, it tied in, I think, to at least... I know for sure it tied into Winter Soldier.
Did it do Ultron?
It didn't do Ultron. But it did Winter Soldier, Thor the Dark World, and...
It briefly
Iron Man 3, I think, too. Like
the blip at one point.
Yes, in later seasons it did mention the blip. And so that was like their kind of first attempt at trying to, okay... Let's take what people have been experiencing on the big screen. Let's put it on the small screen for weekly viewers on during the night as they sit down to watch TV. But it didn't work. It didn't work. Why do you think that is? Why do you think, Andy, that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't work the way that they would have liked it to?
Ooh. That's kind of it's a good question, and I tried watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. myself, and I think honestly, along with me and along with a whole lot of other people, is like, it was just kind of hard to get into. I don't know. For me, it didn't match, kind of what we've been seeing. Which, I mean, it's kind of a hard comparison because you're talking about movies and talking about a TV show. But for me, anyway, I felt that like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of slowed things down. Yes, it kind of gave us a little bit more context of like, outside what we're seeing from the movie. This is what we're seeing. Like, this is another point of view that we're hearing about it from, which was great. But I feel like it kind of did slow things down just a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're going back and we're going to talk about this, but that was 2-3 movies ago.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of already know this. So why are we hearing about it now? I mean, I get if you're watching it chronologically, it'll make sense. But I think trying to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., just that alone, after knowing everything, it does feel like it kind of bogs everything down just a little bit. And that's why, like, for me, I couldn't quite get into it. I watched I think I probably watched maybe half of the first season, and I was just like, I can't finish this.
And Christian, if you will, along with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Netflix also had Daredevil and Luke Cage and Iron Fist and Jessica Jones, leading to the Defenders, obviously. Mm-hmm. If you'll speak to that, like, do you think... Because those Netflix shows, they also tried to connect the same way that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did. Do you think... Oh, do you think that worked? Do you think that they could have gone farther with it? What do you...
Yeah, so I think the Netflix shows and the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fell to the same issue of they didn't want to... Either one, they couldn't get... actors get paid differently between doing TV and doing movies. Mm-hmm. So, is it... And sometimes they even think it's a step down going from, oh, hey, I was in a movie to now I'm in a TV show. So, especially when you're on a different network. So when you're going from, you're working for Disney and now you're going to a different, either, ABC, Netflix, something like that. For some people that may look as I'm moving back, not moving forward. Mm-hmm. Even if you do have a contract to continue to work with Disney after that. That may not have been the case, but that is kind of how it can be perceived.
Yeah.
Storyline wise, I think, I enjoyed Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. For the first season. After that, for me, it started to feel disconnected. For the Netflix shows, I feel like that was a good go-between between the Disney Plus shows and the Netflix shows, like as the bridge between, say, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the new Disney Plus shows.
Yeah.
The problem, like I said, with the Netflix shows is they didn't connect. So they had the same issue that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did, where they tried to make small references, but they never brought in, they were around the same time as other issues, but they never, and even in the same city, but they never referenced anything.
Because I think there were a couple of moments in Daredevil and I think Jessica Jones, they mentioned, like, I know for sure Jessica Jones season 2, I believe, mentioned, the Sokovia Accords. Mm-hmm. I know that Daredevil mentioned, the alien attack, the incident, and stuff like that. So there were, like you said, there were things that they hinted at, but never directly, connected to. And
it would have been very easy for them, especially to, in that final battle in Endgame, bring the Defenders in. Sure. To say, hey, yeah, they are in this shared universe. And now with the Disney Plus shows, they're trying to bring in single people. So they're
Yeah.
bringing in Daredevil, they're bringing in the Punisher,
Yeah.
they're bringing in, but they haven't brought in, Iron Fist, Luke Cage,
Jessica Jones,
Jessica,
those
Jessica
guys,
Jones. Though, so they're picking and choosing, and so you're wondering, well, all these people have met, so is that completely negated? Are we going to just decide, did a new story happen? And it's one of those that, other networks have fallen, other stories have fallen issue to that as well, but they've kind of made up excuses hey, this is what happened. With Marvel, they don't really have a event so far that could make up for that of, hey, this is why the backstory may have changed. I mean, you could maybe reference Endgame, but according to Hulk, the past is the past. You can't change the past.
It's true.
And so it's pretty much set in stone. So
do you guys think that, do you feel that when Endgame released and when the credits rolled on that film, did it feel like an end?
I'll say like it did. I felt that at the end of Endgame, I remember walking out of the theater being like, if Marvel was done, this is a good note to end on.
Yeah.
I could walk away happy knowing that everything that from Iron Man 1 led up to this, and the first Avengers, because that was when we first saw Thanos, was the first Avengers movie. So when we finally reached, our end game, I was pleased. I was happy. And I walked out of there thinking like, if Marvel was to completely stop, this would be the perfect note to end on. Thank God, it's not stopping, and we've got phases 5 and 6 coming, which is great.
Yeah.
So, and I'm looking forward to
Which
seeing
means more Spider-Man.
More Spider-Man.
I know for sure you would want more Spider-Man.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
who wouldn't?
That's true. That's
Yeah,
true.
who wouldn't?
That's true. Yeah, I agree with you. I do think that, I think we all felt that same way leaving the theater that night at the end of Endgame of, if this was to be the end, I'm good with it, you know. But I do like that we did get, Far From Home after that, and we got, obviously, No Way Home and stuff like that. Christian, do you feel like, though, the general movie goer who was with Marvel in the beginning, from Iron Man 1 to Endgame, how do you think that person felt going to the theater during Shang-Chi, during Black Widow, during No Way Home, during Multiverse of Madness, Love and Thunder?
I think, honestly, there were different feels between all of them. So, right after Endgame, you had Far From Home, which we knew was coming out.
Yeah.
And to me, that felt like if you've ever finished a video game and you beat the final boss, and then there's that part where you just kind of, you get that free play, but and it shows this is what happened. You kind of see the aftermath, but it's just, free roam pretty much. That's kind of how Far From Home felt to me, of like, yeah, you can end on Endgame, but you have the choice to play the little extra missions with Far From Home.
Yeah.
So if they ended there, that'd be fine.
Yeah.
Up until his reveal.
Yeah.
But it's one of those of, for the other movies, like Shang-Chi, great movie. I think fans went in with little expectation on that, and because it's one that is not well known, it's a person who, he's not Iron Man, he's not the X-Men, he's not the Fantastic Four, so it was like, what can they do with him? And they did very well. And then there was Black Widow, which should have came out sooner, because it was one of those of, we're going back when we've already left that era. And I know it was setting up a new person, but it just felt do we really need to know this story? And
Yeah.
it was, I mean, it wasn't a bad movie. It just didn't, it almost felt,
Came out at the wrong time.
yeah, came out at the wrong time. Same, and I think when you go through the different movies, you know, each movie after, you know, I think after Shang-Chi always had, you know, mixed of, well, do we like it? Do we not? I mean, you had the Eternals, which some people loved, some people hated, and it's because it felt disconnected. You had, now No Way Home was, I think, one that they did very well of bringing in your previous Spider-Man, your current one together, bringing in your previous villains, and it was one that I think just brought that a fresh air and a old feeling of nostalgia, which, I mean, if you watch The Office, that's one of the things Dwight talks about.
It's
is
true.
Nostalgia is a very powerful thing.
Yeah.
And that was one movie that they got it right in, where you had just they were able to bring in, they were able to respect the previous characters, even give Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man his moment of retribution, and it was just one of those of, it was a great moment, and I think it brought more hype to Multiverse of Madness, which I think hurt that one because people were expecting that to raise the stakes even more.
Do you almost feel like, this just occurred to me, do you almost feel like there was a subliminal in our minds, you know, with having Doctor Strange in No Way Home cast this spell? I almost feel like the reason why that the hype died down for Multiverse Madness was subliminally in our minds we were expecting almost Multiverse of Madness to be a continuation of No Way Home.
Well, kind of.
In all the trailers, it was, I can't control them coming through. You saw the break, you saw all, you know, the sky opening up, you saw all those people. So, and that was in a bunch of the trailers. And, you know, instead of showing the three Spider-Man, you only saw Tom. You saw the whole Earth basically opening up. And so in your mind, you're thinking, okay, if this is leading into Multiverse of Madness and we're seeing previous Spider-Man villains from the multiverse, and now Doctor Strange is saying, I can't control them, they're coming through, your mind immediately thinks more multiverses are breaking through, they're coming in, this is going to explode. In the same way of if you had watched WandaVision and Loki and you knew the split that they had, where the timeline split, you knew Wanda's whole thing. It's just one of, it felt like they had a potential to do more than what they actually did.
So Andy, do you think that, like what Christian just mentioned, you know, in the season finale of Loki, you know, we're introduced to Jonathan Majors. We're introduced to him as Kang. That's the first time that any of us saw Kang. Like, it was at the end of Loki season 2. While also in WandaVision, we're introduced to Ralph Boner, which obviously was played by Evan Peters, which obviously Evan Peters is known for playing Quicksilver in Fox's, but now Marvel's X-Men franchise. So, do you think that, like Christian mentioned, when all of those timelines went, you know, array, do you feel like that it was a, I don't want to say mistake, but a missed opportunity to not have everything play off of that single event?
I would say yes, because, you know, all of Loki, since like the first episode, it shows us that there is this sacred timeline, and any deviant or variant or one wrong thing can trigger a branch reality. I think them not like really focusing in on that was a missed opportunity, because Because when you look at it, when you look at Loki, and then you go into Multiverse of Madness, what should have happened, and this is probably my opinion, and No Way Home as well. What I think should have happened is, yes, we end Loki with the branch timelines. That then leads us forward into No Way Home.
Yeah.
And then, yes, Spider-Man's villains and anyone else branches through, and then that sets us forward into Multiverse of Madness, where it actually is madness and not just contained to one other universe. I think they could have done it better. Not that I'm saying what they did was wrong. It was fine. I enjoyed what we got. But I think they could have expanded even more so on that, to where we see variants of more of like Andrew Garfield's villains.
Yeah.
Some from, even more from Toby's universe, or even some that we're gonna see in Across the Spider-Verse. Like, there could have been so many possibilities that they could have led into Multiverse of Madness. Yes, we saw tons of variants of Strange, but I think we could have seen more. Like, a lot of people I remember were saying that, speculating that we were going to get a superior Iron Man, and it was going to be played by Tom Cruise, which that would have been awesome to see.
Yeah, that would have been great.
So, but we didn't see that. I kind of want to see that.
Yeah, yeah.
But, I think Multiverse of Madness and Loki could have led into something much bigger. But we got Secret War coming up, so maybe that'll be it.
So do you guys think that, like, kind of bringing this back to the relationship between Disney Plus and the MCU, like, so recently, like, the trailer for the Marvels just came out this past, I think it was like Tuesday or something like that.
Tuesday.
If you haven't watched WandaVision or Miss Marvel, that trailer probably confuses you, because you're seeing Monica Rambeau and Kamala Khan, and you're wondering, why are they interchanging with Brie Larson's Carol Danvers right now? Like, what is this? What's going on? Do you think that going forward, because obviously we know that Disney has recently just been in a changing of power almost. They fired Bob Chapek, they bring Bob Iger back. Iger obviously has said, let's slow our roll a little bit. We're not going to release so much stuff, and we want to release good things, not so things. Like, we're going to release good quality content. So, do you think that there will be a shift, Christian, back to, the magic on the big screen, or what do you think?
I'm certainly hoping so. I've noticed a lot of movies lately, not just Disney movies, now say in theaters only, after a trailer, or whereas before it was in theaters and streaming, and so now I think there's a lot of focus on bringing people back to the theater.
Yeah.
And
we have Top Gun Maverick to thank for that.
We have Top Gun Maverick, which is a great movie.
Yeah.
And so I think there's going to be a big push to get people back to the theaters. I know that's, a partnership that I'm sure Disney doesn't want to lose out on. That's, especially because there's just a lot of things that do that are going to come up for Disney,
For sure.
But it's just one of those of, you can't make all your money from Disney Plus, and there's new. Every company is starting to make their own platform, like even HBO and Discovery.
It's not called HBO Max anymore.
I know, that's
it's
what
just called Max.
They
Which is a really dumb name, but that's okay.
So they combined and made their own, made a single one. I mean, Disney used to have a great partnership with Netflix, and then they made their own.
Yeah.
So now, who knows what company is going to make a new one in the future? Disney does own Hulu, so a lot of stuff
Sure.
may go to Hulu first and then to Disney. But you know, the streaming business is always going to change, is always going to adapt, and so I think the theaters are the one consistency in the market right now. You know, there was that big issue when we did have the pandemic, but that's not an every year thing.
Yeah.
That was very short, and you know, who knows if we're gonna have another one.
Yeah, yeah.
But you know, the last one before that was 100 years prior.
Yeah.
And I think the theaters are gonna be. I think there's gonna be a big push to get people back to the theaters. I know I'm repeating myself, but it's...
Well, I think you're onto something there, because it seems to me, and I think Andy would agree too, that streaming is not the end-all be-all when it comes to movies. If you want your movie to have longevity, it needs to go to the theater first.
And I think if you want people to focus and get everything from your movie, because I mean, there are people who watched, I think, who when especially when the movie came out in both streaming and movie, or even movies that were like, I knew people that watched Wonder Woman 84 straight to streaming, and they were like, this wasn't that good, it was all right, but then you watched it in theaters and you're like, I got the full focus of it. And there were even a lot of times when you're at home and you're watching a movie, how easy is it to just pick up your phone, start scrolling at certain parts of the movie? You don't catch things.
That's true.
You're talking to other people.
I mean, we've even had friends who straight up said, like, I'll wait till it comes to streaming.
Yeah.
Like,
but when you're in a theater, the only thing you have is that screen and the audio, and you're totally focused on that.
Yeah.
So I think you get more information. I think you get more...
You're more immersed.
You're more immersed.
You're more immersed, and nothing's taking your attention away from that. Yeah.
So, Andy, what do you think? So, Guardians 3 is coming out soon.
Yeah.
The last bit of Guardians we got was something that Disney Plus, I think, has been more of an asset to the MCU, real quick, to talk about before we close, has been doing special presentations. You know, they did the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special was one. They did Werewolf by Night. Both of those were through the roof. They did great.
They're awesome.
Do you think that in order for Disney Plus to become more of an asset to the MCU, do you think that they should do more special presentations?
On one hand, I want to say yes, because, like the Guardians Christmas special, it was, somewhere between 45 to an hour?
Yeah, about an hour,
About an hour. Within an hour, they told so much, like, story within just the hour that, I don't think, in a way, I don't think you could get that within a series that's anywhere from 6 to 8 episodes. I like the series like that we've gotten. Don't get me wrong on that, but I feel that to kind of just have that feeling of it still kind of being a movie, it being an hour and a half, 45-minute special that still contains a lot of story, I think is great. So if they can do, like we just had Werewolf by Night and Guardians holiday special, if they can do that and tell a decent story while connecting to the next thing, I think that's perfect. I think we should get more of that in the future than these 30, 35, 40-minute, 6-episode series to where it's released, weekly or all at once, I think something like that would be, in my eyes, I think it would be more easier to sit through in a way.
Yeah.
You know, just an hour and a half of this.
Yeah.
So
No, I think that's good. Well, with our last 5 minutes, let's obviously the month of May is going to start probably I would say the summer of movies. Woo. You know, Guardians 3 comes out in May, and then literally in June is stacked with Indiana Jones, The Flash, Transformers. Like, there's a lot, you know, going on. What summer movie are you most excited to see?
Surprisingly, The Flash, because it's the one movie that is going to end one era of DC and start the next.
Yeah.
And I'm just interested to see. It's not that, I don't think it's their end game, but it's you know, it's that turning point, kind of how, you know, Endgame into Far From Home and, you know, led into a new phase. Yeah. Though this is a much more drastic turn because we're ending the Snyder era of DC and going into James Gunn's vision and role, and it's gonna be it's almost kind of gonna be a similar process of who's gonna survive the old, you know, kind of like how in Netflix we're keeping some of the Netflix people from like Marvel, Daredevil and Punisher, guys, but some of the others haven't survived the transition. Who's going to survive from, you know, is Gal Gadot, is Ezra Miller, is you know, there's some we already know aren't, and then some that may or may not. So who's going to move over, who's not? What we already know the names of the, you know, the movies that are coming out, but we don't know a whole lot of the story. True. So I think that for me is going to be one of the more exciting and worrying parts of
that's true
of the next, you know, after
What about
that.
you, Andy? What are you looking for? Movie you excited for this summer?
Honestly, I kind of want to say Guardians 3. Just because, I mean, the last one was great. I loved it. Yeah. It's awesome. And even from the first one, it was like this whole, you know, band of misfits. Yeah. You know, basically who are a family, and I think that's kind of cool. And especially with like what we're told that the third one's going to be about, we're getting more of Rocket's origin.
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
Which
there's nothing more important than family.
Which is awesome because like the movie I'm excited. But you know, I'm looking forward to, you know, Guardians 3, which what everyone's saying or what's been going around, I hope is not true.
Yeah, no rumors here. We're not gonna do that here. So don't even speculate on that.
I hope it's not true.
But it kind of feels like it.
But it kind of feels like it is. You know, I kind of feel like it is, and I'm like, okay, I guess. Anyway.
Yeah, I agree with you. Guardians 3.
Guardians 3.
Christian and I are really excited for Fast 10. Like that's gonna be
that's y'all's thing.
But yeah. So all that to be said, Disney Plus and the MCU, they have had somewhat, it seems like, a tumultuous relationship, but hopefully going forward it'll get better. I'm Sean. This is Christian. This is Andy. Thanks for joining us on the podcast. Thanks for watching it. If you're watching it, again, you can find us on all streaming platforms. And just another real great shout out to Sharp and Iron Studios for making this space available for us. We really do appreciate it. And we can't wait to see you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take it easy.